She accepted the humble mountain man as her husband, but he took her to live in his mansion. The village of Pinebrook was a place where life moved slowly, and everyone knew each other. The mountains stood like quiet guardians, their peaks often hidden by soft clouds, and the air smelled of pine needles and fresh earth. Among the villagers, Clara was known as a kind, hard-working young woman. She lived with her parents in a modest wooden house on the edge of the village. Her father, a retired carpenter, spent most of his days tending a small garden, while her mother, gentle and soft-spoken, managed the household and helped Clara with chores. Clara herself was always busy, rising with the sun to cook breakfast, clean, and sometimes help at the local inn, which offered simple meals to travelers passing through the mountains. Clara's life was quiet, and some might have called it ordinary, but she found beauty in the little things. She loved the way the morning sunlight would fall on the mountain peaks, turning them gold, or the way the river near the village would sparkle as it danced over stones. She enjoyed the laughter of children playing in the village square and the smell of fresh bread from the baker's shop. Her life was simple, but to her it was full. One crisp autumn morning, as Clara walked through the village on her way to the inn, she noticed a man she hadn't seen before. He was tall and strong, with rough hands that spoke of years of hard work. He wore simple clothes, patched in places, and carried a satchel. The villagers called him Ethan, a man who had recently returned to Pinebrook after years away. Rumors spread quickly. Some said he had once been city-bound, living a life far from the mountains, while others whispered he was simply a quiet soul who loved nature. Clara first saw him helping an elderly woman carry firewood. He moved carefully, gently, yet with confidence, and there was a calmness about him that seemed to make the air around him lighter. Curiosity got the better of Clara, and she introduced herself. Ethan smiled, and his eyes, calm and deep, made her feel immediately at ease. They spoke for a while, exchanging simple greetings and stories about the village. Clara discovered that Ethan had a quiet humor. He laughed softly, but it was warm and genuine, not loud or showy. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed often, sometimes in the market, sometimes along the river, or when helping neighbors with chores. Each time, their conversations grew longer, and Clara felt a sense of comfort with him she had never experienced before. Ethan's life was very different from hers. While Clara spent her days performing familiar, everyday tasks, Ethan seemed to find joy in everything he did. He carried himself with humility and patience, whether he was mending a fence, gathering herbs in the forest, or simply sitting under a tree watching the clouds float by. There was no rush in his movements, and Clara found herself drawn to the peaceful rhythm of his life. She admired how he treated everyone with kindness, no matter their status in the village. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Clara found herself walking with Ethan along a narrow forest trail. They had been talking about everything and nothing, memories of childhood, dreams for the future, and the simple pleasures that made life meaningful. Ethan stopped at a small clearing where the last rays of sunlight filtered through the leaves. He turned to Clara and said softly, "I like it here with you. I feel at home." Clara's heart fluttered. She had always imagined love as something grand and dramatic, like the stories she had read in books, but with Ethan, it felt natural, quiet, and true. She realized that love didn't have to be loud or showy. It could be simple and steady, like the mountain streams that ran through their village. That evening they sat together in silence, listening to the sounds of the forest, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the gentle whisper of the wind. In that moment, Clara understood that she had found someone who shared her values, her respect for life, and her love for simplicity. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Clara and Ethan spent more time together, helping neighbors, tending gardens, walking along mountain paths, and sharing quiet evenings by the fire. They laughed easily, supported each other, and faced small challenges together, from a broken roof to a lost goat, with patience and teamwork. Clara came to see Ethan as not just a companion, but as someone who understood her in a way no one else had. He was thoughtful, reliable, and deeply caring, and his presence made her feel safe and cherished. He saw her kindness, her diligence, and her unwavering commitment to those she loved. He appreciated her sense of humor, her curiosity, and her ability to find joy in the little things. In the quiet of the mountains, he realized that he had found someone who could walk with him through life. not just on easy days, but through challenges and joys alike. One snowy winter morning, Ethan invited Clara to a small hill overlooking the village. The snow lay thick and soft, and the world seemed hushed under its white blanket. They walked together, leaving footprints in the fresh snow, and found a spot where they could sit and watch the sunrise. Ethan turned to her, his hands holding hers gently. "Clara," he said, "I want to spend my life with you. I may not have much, but what I have, I want to share with you. Will you marry me?" Clara's eyes filled with tears, not because of the grandeur or ceremony, but because she felt a love so pure and genuine. She nodded, unable to speak for a moment, and finally whispered, "Yes, Ethan, I will." The villagers celebrated their engagement with simple joy. There were no lavish parties or extravagant gifts, only shared laughter, warm food, and the heartfelt congratulations of neighbors. Clara and Ethan's love seemed to fit perfectly with the rhythm of the mountains, as if their bond had been waiting all along for the right moment to bloom. Clara felt a sense of contentment she had never known before. She knew that life with Ethan would not be without challenges, but she also knew that their love was built on honesty, respect, and shared values. As they walked back home hand in hand, the mountains around them seemed to glow in approval, and Clara's heart was filled with hope and anticipation for the future. Evenings were spent planning small dreams together. A garden full of flowers, a cozy kitchen where they could cook together, a place where friends and family could gather. They spoke about raising children, helping the village, and cherishing the quiet moments that often passed unnoticed by the world. Every plan was simple, practical, and heartfelt, reflecting the life they had always imagined. As winter melted into spring, Clara realized how much she had grown since meeting Ethan. She was stronger, more confident, and happier than she had ever been. Her days were still full of work, but now they were also full of love, laughter, and shared purpose. With Ethan, she discovered that happiness didn't come from wealth, status, or recognition. It came from living authentically, caring deeply, and walking through life with someone who truly understood you. The village of Pinebrook continued its quiet life, unaware that a love story had quietly unfolded among its mountains and rivers. Clara and Ethan's bond was not one of grandeur or spectacle, but of authenticity and devotion. In the simplicity of daily life, they found a love so deep that it promised to endure through every season, every challenge, and every joy that life could bring. And so, Clara accepted Ethan's humble heart, unaware that the life they were about to share would hold surprises far beyond what either of them could imagine. For now, though, the mountains, the forests, and the quiet village witnessed a love that was pure, grounded, and beautiful. A love born in simplicity, yet destined for extraordinary moments yet to come. After their wedding, Clara and Ethan began their life together in Pinebrook with the same quiet joy they had always known. Their mornings were filled with simple routines, preparing breakfast, tending the small garden behind the house, and greeting neighbors as they went about their day. Clara felt a deep sense of contentment. She loved the way their days flowed together, peaceful and steady, like the river that ran near the village. She imagined this simple life stretching endlessly before them, and she could not have been happier. But on the day Ethan planned to take her home after the wedding ceremony, Clara sensed something unusual in his demeanor. He had a quiet smile, one that seemed to carry a secret, and when she reached for his hand, he did not pull away. Instead, he guided her gently toward the carriage waiting at the edge of the village. Clara, curious but trusting, followed without question, unaware of the surprise Ethan had prepared for her. The carriage rolled smoothly along a winding path through the mountains. Clara watched the familiar forests and streams pass by, but as the journey continued, she realized they were heading away from the village. The trees grew taller and the terrain opened into a wide valley she had never seen before. Soon, the outline of a large building came into view. A mansion unlike anything Clara had ever imagined. Its walls were made of pale stone, and its tall windows reflected the sunlight in dazzling patterns. The roof was covered in dark tiles, and perfectly trimmed gardens surrounded the grand entrance. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "Ethan, is this?" she began, but words failed her. Ethan turned to her, his eyes calm and kind. I wanted you to see this now with me, he said. This is our home. Clara looked around, stunned. Everything she had known about Ethan, the humble man who spent his days helping neighbors, walking in the forests, and living simply, seemed to vanish in an instant. How could this quiet mountain man own such a magnificent place? Questions swirled in her mind. Had their time in the village been a kind of disguise? Had Ethan hidden this from her all along? The carriage approached the grand entrance and the driver opened the doors. Clara stepped out, her eyes wide as she took in the massive double doors, the carved stone steps, and the flowering gardens. She felt as though she had stepped into a different world, one far removed from the quiet, rustic village she loved. Ethan took her hand and guided her inside. The grand foyer was vast, with a high ceiling and polished wooden floors that shone like mirrors. A crystal chandelier hung above them, sparkling in the morning light that streamed through the tall windows. Clara's heart raced as she looked around, unsure whether to marvel or to feel uneasy. "This is all yours?" she whispered. Ethan shook his head gently. "Not mine, Clara. It belongs to both of us now. I inherited this house from a relative who wanted me to have it when I returned to the mountains. But I never used it before, not in the village. I wanted a simple life there, and I wanted you to know me, the real me, before any of this mattered." Clara was silent, her mind struggling to reconcile the man she loved with the grandeur of the mansion around her. She wanted to feel joy, but she also felt a strange mix of disbelief and fear. What if she didn't belong here? What if she failed to live up to the expectations of a world she had never known? The thought of leaving the village, the neighbors, her parents, the familiar woods, felt overwhelming. Seeing her hesitation, Ethan led her through the house, room by room. There was a library filled with books from floor to ceiling, a kitchen larger than the inn in the village, and bedrooms with soft, comfortable beds and windows overlooking the gardens. Each room was immaculate, decorated with care and taste, yet somehow warm, not cold or intimidating. Clara could see the thought Ethan had put into every detail. He had preserved the house's history while making it welcoming and livable. "I know this is a lot," Ethan said softly. "And I understand if it feels strange, but I want you to see it as a place where we can build our life together. Nothing changes the life we have. We can still walk in the mountains, help our neighbors, and live simply. This is just a home." It does not define us. Clara wanted to believe him, but the uncertainty gnawed at her. For days, she walked through the mansion like a guest, unsure where she belonged. She explored the gardens, ran her fingers along the carved stair rails, and marveled at the sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows. She admired the beauty, yet a part of her ached for the simplicity she had known in Pine Brook. The villagers, when they heard of the mansion, were equally astonished. Some whispered behind Clara's back, questioning why a humble mountain man would live in such splendor. Others speculated about his past, spreading rumors that Ethan had once been wealthy and had chosen the village only for appearances. Clara felt the weight of these whispers, even as she tried to stay grounded. She realized that the life she had imagined with Ethan might not be quite as simple as she thought, but she also knew that her love for him had not changed. In the following weeks, Clara tried to adjust. She learned to navigate the large rooms, to use the kitchen for cooking meals for more than just the two of them, and to care for the gardens that stretched far beyond what she had ever tended. It was overwhelming at times. The size of the house, the quiet expectations that seemed to linger in the halls. But Ethan's presence was her anchor. He never pressured her to act a certain way or to adopt a lifestyle that did not suit her. Instead, he encouraged her to bring her own touch to the house, to make it a home, not just a mansion. Slowly, Clara began to feel at ease. She decorated their shared spaces with flowers she picked from the village, set up a small kitchen garden, and arranged books and simple furniture in ways that made the mansion feel welcoming rather than intimidating. Ethan admired her choices, praising the warmth and comfort she brought to the grand rooms. Together, they made a balance between the elegance of the house and the simplicity of their values. Ethan continued to show his humble side in small ways. He spent hours tending the gardens, chopping wood for the fireplace, and helping with household repairs. He shared stories of his childhood in the mountains,
teaching Clara about the local plants, birds, and stars. Despite the grandeur around them, he remained the same man who had walked with her in the village, the one who had loved her for who she was, not for what she could gain.
Even as Clara adjusted, she still struggled with her sense of identity. Friends from the village visited, and she felt self-conscious about the grandeur surrounding her. She worried they might see her as someone changed by wealth, someone no longer connected to her roots. But each time, Ethan reminded her gently, "You are still you, Clara."
This house doesn't change that. The values we live by, the love we share, those are what matter.
One evening, as snow fell softly outside the mansion, Clara and Ethan sat together by the fire. The flames cast a warm glow across the room, and Clara felt the first real sense of peace in their new life. She realized that this house, this unexpected turn in their journey, was not a threat to the love she and Ethan shared. It was an opportunity to expand their lives, to explore new experiences, while staying true to their hearts. In the following months, Clara grew more confident. She started hosting small gatherings, inviting villagers for meals and celebrations, blending the simple traditions of Pinebrook with the elegance of the mansion. People were amazed at how she remained genuine, humble, and kind despite the grandeur of her surroundings. Clara realized that it was not the house that defined them, but the love, respect, and values they shared.
Ethan and Clara also found ways to give back to the village. They used the resources of the mansion to help neighbors, improve the local school, and support families in need.
Clara began to see the mansion not as a symbol of distance from the village, but as a bridge, connecting her humble beginnings with opportunities to make a real difference. Through all of this, the bond between Clara and Ethan deepened. They faced challenges together, laughed at small mishaps, and found joy in shared moments. The mansion, once overwhelming, became a place of warmth, love, and shared memories. Clara understood that life could hold surprises, sometimes beyond her imagination, but love and partnership could guide her through any change. By the end of the first year in the mansion, Clara finally felt truly at home. The mountain still called to them, the village remained dear to her heart, and Ethan's love was as steady and genuine as ever. The mansion no longer seemed like a world apart. It was now a canvas for the life they were creating together, a life rooted in humility, strengthened by love, and brightened by the possibilities that lay ahead. Life in the mansion slowly became a rhythm that Clara and Ethan adjusted to, yet Clara still faced challenges she had never imagined. The house was vast, with corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly, rooms that held furniture she had never seen, and servants who moved quietly but efficiently, attending to every detail of daily life. At first, Clara felt like a guest in someone else's world, unsure of where she belonged or how to behave. She loved Ethan deeply, and she knew he never wanted her to feel overwhelmed, but the grandeur around her was difficult to ignore. The mornings were the hardest. Clara was used to waking with the sun and stepping into a world where the air smelled of pine, and the sounds of birds and the river were her alarm. In the mansion, the windows were tall and ornate, letting in a soft, filtered light that felt almost artificial. There was a sense of quiet efficiency in every corner. Polished floors that reflected the sunlight, silverware shining on the dining table, and rooms that were always immaculate. Clara found herself constantly reminding herself that this was her home now too, but it took time to truly feel that way. Ethan, noticing her hesitation, never rushed her. He encouraged her to take her time, explore the mansion at her own pace, and make it a space where she felt comfortable. He helped her in small ways, explaining how the heating worked, showing her the proper care for the flowers in the garden, and guiding her through the large kitchen when she prepared meals. Slowly, Clara realized that the mansion was not meant to intimidate her. It was a blank canvas ready for the life they would build together. Even so, challenges arose from outside the mansion as well. Word had spread through Pinebrook and neighboring villages that Clara and Ethan were living in a grand house. Some villagers whispered with envy, others with curiosity. Friends who once visited the modest home of her parents now looked at Clara differently, unsure whether she was still the same kind, down-to-earth woman they had known. At times, these murmurs made Clara uneasy. She worried that her authenticity might be questioned and that she might lose the simple connections she had cherished in the village. Clara decided to confront these worries directly. She began inviting the villagers to the mansion for small gatherings. afternoon teas, simple meals, and celebrations of birthdays or seasonal events. She insisted that these gatherings be relaxed and welcoming, not formal or intimidating. To her delight, the villagers began to see that Clara had not changed. She was still the same woman who laughed freely, listened carefully, and treated everyone with kindness. The mansion no longer seemed like a barrier but a bridge connecting her past to her present. Despite her growing confidence, Clara still felt out of place among people from outside the village who occasionally visited the mansion. These guests were often accustomed to wealth and luxury, and their world seemed alien to her. They asked about fashion, travel, and other experiences Clara had never had, and at first she felt nervous and self-conscious. She worried about saying the wrong thing or revealing her simple upbringing. But Ethan's calm presence reminded her that she did not need to pretend.
"Your honesty and warmth are your greatest strengths," he said. "People will respect you more for being yourself than for fitting into their expectations."
Over time, Clara found her voice. She began speaking confidently at gatherings, sharing stories of village life, the lessons she had learned growing up, and her vision for community projects she wanted to start. People listened, not only because of the beauty of the mansion, but because Clara's sincerity was unmistakable. She began to realize that she could navigate both worlds, the simplicity of Pinebrook and the elegance of the mansion, without losing herself.
Ethan, ever supportive, also faced challenges. Although he had inherited the mansion, he was careful to maintain the humility that had defined his life.
Some of the mansion's neighbors, accustomed to ostentatious displays of wealth, were skeptical of him. They questioned why a man of his means chose to live quietly, without flaunting his fortune. Ethan never responded with arrogance or defensiveness. Instead, he continued living according to his principles, demonstrating through actions rather than words what kind of person he truly was.
Clara admired him even more for this, recognizing that his humility was not a choice made for others' approval, but a core part of his character. As the seasons changed, Clara and Ethan established routines that blended their worlds beautifully.
Mornings were often spent walking through the mansion's gardens, tending flowers, and checking on vegetables in the kitchen garden. Afternoons could be spent visiting the village, helping neighbors, or walking through the woods surrounding Pinebrook.
Evenings were reserved for quiet moments by the fireplace, sharing stories, reading, or simply enjoying each other's company. The mansion, once overwhelming, became a place where they could live fully, both as a couple and as individuals. Clara discovered that she had a talent for organizing and hosting. She started planning charitable events, inviting villagers and neighbors alike to participate.
Together with Ethan, she created opportunities for local children to learn music, gardening, and basic crafts. They helped families in need, donated resources for the village school, and supported community projects. The mansion, which had once seemed like a symbol of separation from her roots, became a hub for bringing people together. Clara realized that wealth and space could be used not just for comfort, but for kindness and connection. The work was not without its challenges. Organizing events, managing guests, and balancing the mansion's responsibilities with their simple pleasures sometimes felt overwhelming. Clara occasionally doubted her abilities, wondering if she was capable of maintaining her authenticity while meeting the expectations of this new world. But Ethan's quiet encouragement and partnership reassured her.
"We face these things together," he would say. "Whatever comes, we will handle it as a team."
Living in the mansion required her to adapt, learn new skills, and confront her fears of inadequacy. She learned to manage staff, understand the intricacies of the estate, and plan events that balanced elegance with approachability. At first, these tasks were daunting, but she discovered an inner strength she had not known before. With each challenge, she grew more confident, more capable, and more comfortable in her new life.
Despite these successes, Clara never forgot her roots. She made frequent trips to her parents' home, spending time in the village and reconnecting with old friends.
She maintained the simple joys she had always loved, walking barefoot through the grass, listening to the river, and cooking hearty meals from fresh ingredients. These moments reminded her of the values that mattered most: family, community, and honesty, and helped her remain grounded.
Ethan, too, was a constant source of support.
He never allowed the mansion to overshadow the life they had built together in the mountains. He often reminded Clara that their love, kindness, and shared goals were far more important than appearances or societal expectations.
Together, They found ways to merge their worlds, celebrating the mansion's beauty while honoring the simplicity and warmth of their upbringing. One particularly memorable spring afternoon, Clara organized a festival in the mansion gardens, inviting villagers and neighbors alike. There were games for children, music, and a feast prepared with ingredients from the mansion's kitchen garden and the village farms. Clara moved through the crowd with a sense of pride and joy, seeing people from different worlds coming together, laughing, sharing stories, and enjoying the day.
She realized that the mansion had not changed who she was. Rather, it had given her the opportunity to expand her impact, helping more people while remaining true to herself. Through all these experiences, Clara learned an important lesson. Life is not defined by surroundings or wealth, but by the choices one makes, the values one holds, and the love shared with others. She understood that the mansion, while impressive, was not what made her life extraordinary. What mattered was the way she and Ethan treated each other, cared for their community, and built a life together filled with purpose and meaning. As time passed, the mansion became a symbol not of separation, but of balance, a place where elegance and humility coexisted, where tradition and innovation blended, and where love and kindness guided every decision. Clara's confidence grew, her relationships deepened, and her ability to navigate the complexities of this new world strengthened. She realized that challenges were not obstacles but opportunities to grow, learn, and strengthen her bond with Ethan. By the end of this chapter in their lives, Clara had transformed the mansion from a place of uncertainty into a home filled with warmth, laughter, and love. She had learned to navigate social expectations, embrace her own strengths, and merge her humble upbringing with the opportunities provided by the estate. Most importantly, she had discovered that the foundation of happiness lay not in the grandeur of surroundings, but in the steadfast love, support, and shared values she had with Ethan.
In these moments of reflection, Clara felt a profound sense of gratitude.
She was grateful for her roots, for the life she had known in Pine Brook, and for the love that had guided her to this point.
She was grateful for Ethan, whose humility and wisdom had shown her that even the most unexpected changes could become blessings when faced together.
And she was grateful for the mansion, not as a symbol of wealth, but as a space where she could live fully, give generously, and build a life that honored both her past and her present. Clara understood at last that the true measure of home was not walls or furniture, but love, authenticity, and the courage to grow. The mansion, once overwhelming and intimidating, had become a place where she could thrive, where she could remain herself, and where she and Ethan could continue to create a life filled with joy, purpose, and unwavering devotion. By the time spring fully arrived, the mansion had transformed from a place that once seemed overwhelming to a home that reflected both Clara and Ethan's hearts.
Every corner held memories of laughter, learning, and shared effort.
The garden bloomed with flowers Clara had chosen, the kitchen smelled of fresh bread and herbs, and the corridors echoed with quiet warmth rather than emptiness. Clara had grown into her role as both caretaker of the mansion and ambassador between the grand house and the village, finding joy in the balance of her two worlds. Clara often reflected on how much she had changed since the first day Ethan had revealed the mansion. At first, the grandeur had frightened her. She had felt small and unsure, afraid she would never belong. But through patience, love, and courage, she had learned to embrace the mansion as a space for growth, not a symbol of separation. She realized that home was not defined by walls or furniture, but by the values, love, and intentions carried within it. Ethan watched her transformation with quiet pride. He had never wanted the mansion to intimidate her. Instead, he hoped it would offer opportunities for her to shine. In the early days, he had guided her gently, explaining the workings of the house and showing her that elegance could coexist with humility. But now, watching Clara host gatherings, manage household projects, and extend their generosity to the village, Ethan saw a confidence and strength in her he had always admired, but that had now fully blossomed. One warm afternoon, they decided to host a spring festival in the mansion gardens, inviting both villagers and neighbors from surrounding towns. Clara worked tirelessly to organize the event, planning music, games, and a feast. She wanted it to be a celebration of community, simplicity, and joy, a way to merge her past life with the new one. As preparations continued, the mansion became alive with activity, servants arranging tables, musicians tuning instruments, and Clara directing volunteers with calm authority. When the festival began, the garden was filled with laughter and movement. Children ran among the flowers, playing games and chasing butterflies, while adults gathered in small groups, talking, sharing stories, and sampling the food Clara had prepared. There was a gentle energy in the air, one that combined the warmth of village gatherings with the elegance of the mansion. Clara moved among the guests, greeting them with a smile, listening carefully to their stories and making everyone feel welcome.
She had found a way to create harmony between her humble beginnings and the opportunities the mansion offered.
Ethan stood quietly nearby, watching Clara in her element. He marveled at how naturally she had adapted to this world without losing the simplicity and authenticity that had drawn him to her in the first place. When she noticed him, she smiled, and he came over to take her hand.
"You've made this place feel alive," he said softly. "It's more than a mansion now. It's our home."
Clara felt warmth spread through her chest.
"We've made it ours together," she replied. "I never could have done it without you." As the festival continued, Clara realized that the mansion was not a barrier but a bridge.
It connected her to the village in new ways, allowing her to help more people, create opportunities, and build meaningful relationships. She understood that wealth and space were tools, not definitions of character or happiness.
With love, kindness, and authenticity, even the grandest surroundings could be made welcoming and meaningful. In the weeks that followed, Clara and Ethan continued to grow in their roles as leaders, partners, and members of both communities.
They spent mornings in the garden, afternoons walking through the village, and evenings planning future projects. Clara organized educational activities for children, art classes, and small farming workshops, teaching skills that connected the villagers to the land and to their traditions.
Ethan helped with physical labor, repairing homes, and sharing his knowledge of nature, while also encouraging the children to explore the forests and rivers safely.
Together, they created a balance that honored their values and strengthened their bond with the people around them. Clara also learned to embrace her own voice. In conversations with neighbors and guests, she shared her experiences, the lessons she had learned about love, humility, and courage, and her vision for building communities rooted in kindness. People were drawn to her sincerity, and she realized that she could have influence without pretension.
Her presence became a bridge between worlds, the simplicity of her past and the potential of her present. Even as they celebrated successes, Clara and Ethan faced challenges. There were times when misunderstandings arose with neighboring estates or when expectations clashed with their values. At first, Clara worried about how to respond, fearing that her humble background might be seen as a weakness.
But Ethan reminded her gently,
"We lead with our hearts, Clara. Integrity and compassion matter more than appearances or status." With his guidance and her growing confidence, they navigated these challenges with grace, maintaining their authenticity while addressing concerns thoughtfully. The mansion also became a space for personal growth.
Clara discovered hobbies she had never considered, like painting, writing letters to distant friends, and exploring historical records of the estate. She began to understand the history of the land, the architecture, and the traditions of the people who had lived there before them. Through this, she found a sense of continuity and connection that made the mansion feel more like home. Ethan, for his part, continued to live with humility and authenticity.
Despite owning a grand house, he remained approachable, kind, and generous. He avoided extravagance for its own sake and focused instead on nurturing relationships and caring for the land and community.
Clara admired him more with each passing day, realizing that true greatness lay not in wealth or status, but in character and the choices one made every day. As the seasons changed, Clara and Ethan began planning their future together.
They spoke of raising children, teaching them the values of humility, respect, and love for nature. They discussed expanding the mansion's gardens, creating spaces for learning and play, and continuing to connect with the village through events, projects, and shared experiences.
Their vision was not one of grandeur for its own sake, but of using the opportunities around them to create meaning, joy, and community. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Clara and Ethan walked through the gardens, hand in hand. The flowers glowed in the golden light, and the air was filled with the soft hum of insects and the distant laughter of children. Clara stopped and looked around, taking a deep breath.
"It's incredible," she said softly. "I never imagined life could be like this."
"It's not the mansion that makes it incredible," he said. "It's everything we've built together, the love, the trust, the choices we make every day. That's what makes a home." Clara realized he was right. The mansion, once overwhelming and intimidating, had become a symbol of their journey, a journey of love, patience, growth, and courage. It had tested them, challenged them, and offered opportunities they could never have imagined. But most importantly, it had brought them closer, teaching them that true wealth lay in connection, compassion, and shared values. From that day on, Clara embraced the mansion fully. She no longer felt like a guest or an outsider. She moved through the rooms with ease, laughter filled the halls, and the garden became a place of creativity and joy. She hosted gatherings that blended simplicity and elegance, welcomed visitors from near and far, and continued to support the village that had shaped her. Each day she found balance between her humble beginnings and the life she shared with Ethan, understanding that both were equally valuable. Ethan and Clara also continued to nurture their relationship. They celebrated milestones together, learned from mistakes, and supported each other through challenges. They never lost sight of the values that had brought them together in the first place: honesty, humility, kindness, and love. In their shared life, they discovered that happiness was not found in possessions or appearances, but in shared experiences, mutual respect, and the courage to grow together. Years passed, and the mansion became a hub of life, learning, and community. Clara and Ethan raised children who were taught the importance of empathy, honesty, and respect. They hosted artists, musicians, and storytellers, blending the traditions of the village with the opportunities of the estate. The mansion was no longer just a house. It was a living testament to love, partnership, and the power of staying true to one's values. Clara often reflected on the day she had first stepped into the mansion, unsure of where she belonged. She remembered the fear, the hesitation, and the uncertainty. And she smiled, realizing how far she had come. She had found a way to merge two worlds without losing herself, creating a life that was richer not because of wealth, but because of love, purpose, and the courage to embrace change. In the quiet moments, Clara and Ethan would sit together in the gardens or by the fireplace, sharing stories of their past, dreaming of the future, and cherishing the present. They had learned that life's true treasures were not gold or grandeur, but the people we love, the values we hold, and the moments we share. The mansion, once intimidating and foreign, had become a home where simplicity and elegance, humility and grace, love and growth coexisted beautifully. And so, Clara and Ethan lived their lives with gratitude, purpose, and unwavering devotion. Their journey had begun with simplicity in the mountains, taken an unexpected turn through the grandeur of the mansion, and found its true meaning in the balance they created together. In every corner of their home, in every smile, in every shared moment, they discovered that love, authenticity, and courage were the greatest treasures of all. Through the seasons and years, their story became an example for others, a story of humility and grandeur coexisting, of love flourishing in unexpected places, and of the strength found in staying true to oneself while embracing life's surprises. And in the quiet glow of sunset or the soft hush of snowfall, Clara and Ethan knew that their greatest adventure was not the mansion itself, but the life they had built together. One of harmony, joy, and endless love.